Hello students, in this lesson we are going to discuss the details of cellular respiration, that how respiration takes place inside a cell. First of all, if any of you is having a doubt that respiration includes breathing, that is taking inside the air and throwing out carbon dioxide, respiration is not that. Respiration is a physiological process which involves the breakdown of the food product which you have eaten back into its constituents. So supposedly you have eaten carbohydrates, that is glucose. So respiration would involve breaking down of that glucose back into carbon dioxide and water, and during that breakdown of chemical bonds all the energy would be utilized. So you must be knowing what is the basic equation of cellular respiration. It is this glucose is to be broken down in the presence of oxygen into carbon dioxide and water. So when this complex molecule would be broken down into these two molecules, which are quite simple, one is carbon dioxide, other is water, this breakdown would produce immense energy which was earlier stored in the bonds of these molecules. So that energy would be taken up in the form of ATP and the cell would give that energy. So this process of breakdown is respiration, not the one which we think otherwise, that taking inside oxygen and giving out carbon dioxide, though that is also involved, that in case of humans, but inside every cell, whatever cell we are talking about, whether it is a plant cell or it is a prokaryotic cell, this process has to take place. In case of aerobic respiration, it is going to take oxygen. In case of anaerobic respiration, it is not going to take this oxygen and it would happen in absence of oxygen, but the outcome would be similar. So please remember, the respiration is a biochemical process, not just a chemical process, that simple breakdown and it is giving out these outcomes. No, it is not chemical process, it is a biochemical process in which a lot of enzymes which are present inside the cell would be involved and the energy would be given out in the form of ATP. So what this cellular respiration is all about? You have a molecule of glucose. It has to be broken down into carbon dioxide and water by a multi-step process. Now we are inside a cell because we are talking about cellular respiration. So we are inside a cell. We have to see that a cell comprises of a cytosol basically, which is separated from the medium by the membrane. Inside there are organelles. Supposedly this is nucleus. This is the cytosol which we are talking about, where some part of respiration would take place, and there is an organelle known as powerhouse of cell, that is known as mitochondria. So basically these two parts, the cytosol and the mitochondria, are going to be involved in the cellular respiration. Now what happens inside cell is that a glucose molecule would enter it, whether it is stored or it is being synthesized by the cell itself. This glucose molecule would be broken down in a 10-step process to pyruvic acid. The process is known as glycolysis or EMP pathway. This 10-step process would break down into the glucose into a 3-carbon molecule. You must be knowing glucose is an aldehyde which contains 6 carbons. So you have to break that glucose into 6 carbon dioxide molecules. For breaking that, you have to do it step by step so that the energy can be trapped inside each step in the form of ATP. Now this half of the steps have taken place inside the cytosol. Now those two molecules of pyruvic acid which are formed as a result of glycolysis, which takes place inside the cytosol of cell, that enter into the mitochondria for another series of steps, cyclic process, which is known as Krebs cyclic or the TCA cycle. I'm sorry, I said it Krebs cyclic, it's Krebs cycle or the TCA cycle. This cycle takes place inside the mitochondria. Now this process causes the release of 3 carbon dioxide molecules from each pyruvic acid. We would discuss those processes in detail, but for now you need to understand that we wanted carbon dioxide and water as an outcome. We are going to get it through the Krebs cycle. The energy which is to be generated, that would be done by electron transport system, where an electron jumps from one collector to the other that is an electron deficient molecule, takes up the electron, then it passes the electron to the next one. In this way, a lot of energy is being formed in the form of ATP, and that energy is the result of the cellular respiration. So it is not a simple process, it is basically breakdown of a large molecule, that is a biomolecule, that is glucose, into the simple molecules, and generation of as much as 36 ATPs by breakdown of each molecule. So it requires lot many enzymes, it requires lot many steps, and you will need to remember each and every step. But before that, you need to know that this particular process is the form of aerobic respiration. Aerobic, that this cannot be completed without the presence of oxygen. You are going to need oxygen for this process to complete itself. But there are certain organisms which do not need oxygen. Like you might have heard that there are certain methanogens and other bacteria, they survive only in anaerobic conditions. That means if you give them oxygen, it is sort of poisonous for them. You might have heard about rhizobium and leg hemoglobin like compounds which have to act as oxygen scavengers, so that the organisms which are working over there or performing over there, they don't get oxygen. That means they perform these functions, that is the breakdown of the complex molecule into the simple ones, in the absence of oxygen. And the last one is the process of fermentation, on which our alcoholic industry survives. There are two types of fermentation, one is alcoholic and other is lactic acid. Alcoholic, I need not to tell you, the worldwide production of alcohol is done by this fermentation method in the breweries and the rest things. And lactic acid fermentation, it is seen or felt in the form of the pain in the muscles which happens in our body whenever we are doing some strenuous exercise in gym or something. So we get a pain in our muscles, that is due to the lactic acid fermentation, which again happens to take place in absence of oxygen. Why our muscles pain is that the oxygen is deficient, and that's why over there lactic acid is formed, and that acid is responsible for the pain in body. So we have aerobic respiration, we have anaerobic respiration, and inside anaerobic respiration only we have fermentation, where the glucose molecule would result in the formation of ethanol in the case of alcoholic fermentation, and in the result of lactic acid in case of our muscles. So this is the basic process of cellular respiration, which has to take place inside each and every cell for the breakdown of the food material that goes inside it, and energy is taken from that process. In certain cases, anaerobic respiration can result in production of energy, but this fermentation process results in very less generation of energy. Alright, so basically it is the aerobic respiration which are going to give a lot amount of energy to the cell, and we are going to restrict ourselves to the detailed study of aerobic respiration, because as you can see it is having 3 steps. These are very simple. In one case the glucose would break down to alcohol, that is ethyl alcohol ethanol, that is a 2 carbon compound, and there would be release of just 1 carbon dioxide molecule, and in case of lactic acid fermentation there is not even a single molecule of carbon dioxide which is released. So do pay attention that inside a cell respiration takes place, which involves the breakdown of glucose, and how it takes place, it is simplest way, this way we can learn it, and in detailed way we can see what all these processes are. It involves 10 steps. It is a cyclic process which again involves 10 steps, and this is having 4 to 5 different compounds which are involved in taking up the electrons and passing it further, so that the energy can be trapped and oxygen can be used up. Thank you.